So let's start project 2 now. So we're going to open up a file called contributions. So before we take a look at the rest, let's take a look at that file, see if we can understand it. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And here I have contributors. And these contributors are contributing to a fund, some sort of charity. The contributors look like they are companies or organizations, and the amount of the contribution is in column C. So I think we understand the data. Let's take a look at the question. So we're going to go to cell A33 and type total contributions and press enter. So let's go to A33. There it is. So let's paste that in, total contributions. And then in cell C33, we're going to sum up a column. We're going to sum up column C. So let's copy that formula in or type it in. So that's column 33, okay, or column C rather. We put our formula in there, and that sums up the amount right above it. So if I just click one time in it, I can see the formula right there, and I can change it. It doesn't have to start here and go all the way down to 32. Convince yourself that it is a formula and change the formula. So let's stop at, instead of 32, 31, and press enter, and we see that the amount dropped by 200. So let me do Control Z to go back, because that's not what we want. We want all of column C from C4 to C32. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to select these cells, and then in the Formula tab, we want to go to the Define Names group and click the Define Name button, and then give those cells a name. So instead of referring to them by a range of cells, C4 to C32, what we're going to do instead is we're going to give it a name. Now I can highlight them and go straight over here to the name box and give it a name, but it's recommending here that we go to Formula, Define Name, and then up here at the top, we see Define Name again. And if we click here, we'll get a dialog box that gives us control, more control of how we define a name. So like I said, you could just type the name right here in the name box and press enter. But if you want full control of that naming process, you bring up the new name dialog box. So let's see exactly how we need to do this. In the next question, we see here in the new name dialog box, accept the defaults and click OK. And then arrange name amount is created. So let's accept the default. It's called amount by default. And if, of course, you don't have the right cells highlighted, you can see we currently have them correctly selected. You can click the collapse button, reselect it, and then come back and click OK. But we're starting off with the right cell, so I'm just going to click OK right now. That's more than we need to do. Okay, so we gave it a name, and we see that name appears in the name box. I could just click outside right now, come to the name box, click that amount, or click that name, and it immediately jumps its focus to those selected cells. Okay, so in cell B35, we are going to do a count. We're going to count the number of items listed in column C. So let's go to C35. So there's C35 right there. Let's post it in. And there are 29 items there. And that makes sense. If you go from C34 to C32, there are if you subtract the 2, you have 28 items, but if you include them, so C4 to C32 inclusive, that's actually 29 items. And if you have any doubt, just go ahead, count down, and you'll see there are 29 items there. Let's press enter, and we'll go to the next cell now. So in B36, on the Formula tab, in the Formula Library function, we want to insert a function, and we want to insert an average function. So that goes into B36. Okay, so here's 36. And let me read that again. Was that B or C? That was in B. Okay, and I think I made a mistake also with the previous question. So let's correct the previous question. I'm going to do a cut and paste here. So cut and paste. Okay, and now we're going to insert a function right here in B36, an average function. So let's go to formula, insert function. Let's find average. I'm lucky it's at the top. If you don't see it, you can type average right here, but you should see average. So let's click OK, and let's see what we have to calculate the average of. So in the dialog arguments, okay, we want to collapse the dialog box and select column C, but not all of column C. We just want to go up to C21. Okay, so we're doing an average. That's the collapse button. Okay, we're doing an average of column C, but we're not doing all of column C. We're only going up to C21, and you can verify that we're at C21 from the formula bar. Okay, and I think we just need to click OK at this point, and we can see the average of those contributions. Let's continue. So click the expand box, click OK, and then a triangle appears in the lower left corner of B36, and an error message button is displayed. Click the button arrow and click Ignore Error. The result in B36 represents the average dollar amount contributions of the organizations. So here's the error button, okay, and when you get an error, okay, if you just hover over it, you can see what the error is, and you have some ways of responding to that error. So for instance, you can update the formula to include more cells. Remember, we didn't highlight all the cells, or we can get help on this error, or there's various options here, but the thing they want us to do is click Ignore Error, meaning we have not made a mistake. That is exactly what we wanted. So we ignore the error, and let's continue. Okay, so now we want to copy the formula in B36 to B37. Okay, so there's a few different ways of doing it. You can right click, copy and paste. I'm just going to drag the formula down. Okay, so we copied the formula, and after copying the formula, with B37 selected, change the range. Now remember, last time we were doing the average from C4 to C21. Now we're going to continue. We're going to go from C22 to C32, and again, we're going to ignore the error. So let's go ahead and correct that. So I'm going to click in here, okay? And what I want to do is I want to change the range. So there's a few different ways of doing this, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to click directly into the formula, okay? And I am going to type what I'm looking for. So I want to start at C22 and go all the way up to, what was it, C32. C32. And like I said, there are multiple ways of doing this. If you scroll up, you can see the area is now in focus from C22 all the way to C32, and press enter. Okay, so I think that's it for that question. And of course, ignore the error. So let's ignore this error. We did not make a mistake. That's exactly what we wanted to do. Let's continue. So in B38 now, we want to do the minimum of amount. Now remember, what is amount? Well, come over here, select amount, and it's those cells. So it is the entire column of numbers. So let me collapse my ribbon here, and I'm going to put equals min. This time, instead of selecting the cells, I can select the cells, but in this case, I'm actually going to type it out instead. So let's return to it. So minimum amount, and notice it appears in the autocomplete. Okay, so this is a smart feature. So you can use the arrow key, go down to it and hit tab, or you can just use your mouse pointer and click on it directly. Let's close off the bracket and press enter. And now we're going to do the same thing in B39, but now we're interested in the max function. Equals max, open bracket, type amount. So it's going to give us the maximum value in there. So the minimum is $200 contribution, and the maximum is 50,000. And that's pretty much it. So we're ready to save it. And that is the name of the file that you will be uploading. So let's do a copy, and we'll go to File, Save As. We're going to save it on this computer. Navigate to the place where you want to save it. Okay, again, don't change the extension. You need that extension. Just type the name in there and leave the extension, and click Save. And we can now close this file.